Hello, this is Emergency Management Made Easy with Lauren. This is class number 20 in our series. Get out of here quick. Evacuate. Evacuation Protocol Training, Part 1. These are facts for your safety consideration everywhere. Those people who have the book, refer to your table of contents, Evacuation Training. Those who do not have a book, no worries. If you have pencil and paper, you're fine. Hopefully you have lined paper 8.5 by 11. Because I really want you to get this and understand it and review your notes again. And remember, you can always play the video as many times as you need to. So A, well, it's important to avoid a disorganized evacuation. Why? Well, it can result in confusion, injury, and property damage. Evacuation training helps people to remain calm and act decisively in a crisis. It prevents fear from causing confusion or disorder. Evacuation training drills are crucial because they familiarize people, you and I, with emergency procedures, which reduces panic, minimizes injuries, and improve response times during actual emergencies, like fires and, yes, tornadoes, or other threats. It's important that people know their roles and designated assembly points before an emergency. Know before you go. Know before you go. How will this happen? Well, this training is also a legal requirement in many areas and is essential for protecting vulnerable individuals and supporting business continuity. And we know who our vulnerable individuals are. Persons in wheelchairs, persons who are blind, the aged. Areas of responsibility. Who's responsible for what? Well, number one, the business owner, administrator, or his or her designee, and assigned evacuation team leaders. You know those team leaders that you've been meeting with at the table and talking about emergency management and safety, in which you were writing plans, those plans you have written, all of that, and those meetings you've had with outside resources. Well, the business owners, administrators, or designees, and assigned evacuation team leaders and employees are responsible for making the decision to evacuate the premises. It's critical that everyone knows who has the authority to make decisions during any emergency. Who's the go-to person? Who is the person who's going to make calls, make decisions? 2, walk throughout the campus and business. Ensure exit signs have sufficient lighting so everyone can safely walk to all exits. That has to be in order beforehand. That's a part of your safety procedure. 3, remember exits should never be blocked. Never, ever, ever. If you are at work and you just happen to be walking along and you see an exit, with boxes, if they're blocked, please make sure that your supervisor knows as soon as possible, because part of the drill training is knowing that those exits should always be clear of clutter. 4, security staff and all employees, students on the premises should be trained. This includes administrators. Training teams may plan walkthroughs in which they practice evacuation procedures before training is offered to you as employees or students and others on the premises. So the administration, the training team, they're going to do a walkthrough. They're going to practice the drills before they train the actual students, employees, or congregants in the church situation, in our worship houses. This includes annual, biannual, or impromptu drills. As I have taught before, if staff didn't respond to an emergency or drill proficiently, scrap it, start over. Start over. You know they haven't been trained properly. And as I said before, you know they didn't get it. If they don't understand what they're supposed to do, start over. They have to be retrained and trained again and drilled again until they understand exactly what they're supposed to do. Business owner, administrator, pastor, imam, any worship house. They have to be retrained. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, training allows safety personnel to spot issues in the emergency plan, such as blocked exits, communication breakdowns, or insufficient staff assistance for vulnerable individuals. 5, families and private households should practice safety training drills at designated times during the year. Practice at home. You care about your employees at work, you care about your business, then of course you care about your family. So both needs to be considered. 6, designated staff are responsible for sounding distinctive alarms, alerting and calling fire or police. In the U.S., as I've said before, it's 911, or protocols for your specific location in Paris, your specific location in Canada, wherever you are in the diaspora or Africa. 7, predetermine the order of evacuation throughout the campus, whatever the campus or business may be. All of this is predetermined beforehand. See, that's why the administration and training team are doing the walkthrough before they train the staff. It's all predetermined. 8, in worship houses, trustees, stewards, teachers, and designees should be advised to take a head count during every service, meeting or all activities on or within the worship house campus. You take a head count. You have a special, in my worship house, we have a dining room. People will rent out our dining room for weddings, for parties. And so we have to know who's in there, and also explain to, and I didn't write this in my notes, explain the emergency procedures, the emergency evacuation procedures. They're our guests. However, in case of an emergency, this is how you evacuate. Even when we have like training and people want to use our facilities for training, this is how you would evacuate during an emergency. We're telling you now because this is what we do as part of our protocol. anything happens, if we say that you're to evacuate, you exit from this door and that door. So people will know. And a lot of people I notice do not do that, because I have gone to trainings and meetings. They say nothing about how to evacuate from their facility. They, according to OSHA regulation, they're supposed to. So I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm down in the weeds again. Excuse me. 9. The management, principal, or security team designees will assess the situation to determine whether an emergency exists requiring activation of the emergency procedure, evacuation, shelter in place, etc. We're going to talk about shelter in place because there are times when you won't be able to leave the building for certain situations, but we will deal with that in another segment. I don't want to overwhelm you today because this is a lot. So that's why I'm splitting it up in 2 classes. Some I will repeat next week and some I will not. It will be all new. So be sure to stay tuned. These designees must be trained and immediately capable of recognizing when to abandon or evacuate the premises or building. They will make the call. Pre-designated people, training team folks will make the call. If the boss isn't there, we know what that means. The designated staff on the training team will make that call. 10. Keep people, adults and children, on each floor together. It makes the head count so much easier. The children will just leave the building with their teachers, their church school teachers, or their instructors. If they're leaving the building, they leave together, and the adults will leave together. That makes it so much easier. The parents can meet with the children at the designated area. 11, direct everyone to the alternate safe exit. If an exit is blocked, enter every stairwell, walk down the stairs, and open exit doors to the outside if possible. And we will discuss fire safety in detail. But if at all possible, know where the exits are and get out as soon as possible, like I said in the beginning of this training. 12. Continue walking away from the campus to the predetermined safe assembly area. It's called a predetermined safe assembly area. 13, no one should leave the assembly area until the all clear is given by the first responders or leadership. That is right. That is right. You cannot just get your little self in your car and go home. Why? Well, because if you leave the area, leadership have no way of knowing if you are trapped in the building, if you're still in the building. At the pre-assembled area, we have to account for everyone who was in the building. That's why we did the head count at church. So we can account for who was in seats and who was not and who was evacuated. When we look around, we don't want to see you leaving the pre-assembly area in your vehicle. That is totally a no-no. That is not the way it's done. And everyone must obey the rules. You don't leave until the fire department or the police department or your administrator, your school administrator, whoever is designated, will give you permission to leave. Students, college students, seniors, you don't get to leave the premises. Can't repeat that enough. And of course I'm preaching to the choir, right? You already know all of this. Okay. Administration and every facility should have oversight and methods in place to know who is on site in case of emergency, in and out boards, other sign-in or virtual procedures. They are very helpful. Your employees, I'm sure they sign in. You know who is in the building, who isn't in the building. Guests, you need to know who they are, where they are in case of emergency so that they can evacuate with you, especially the training teams. 15, the security team should assist in evacuating all people during an emergency and coordinating crowd control. You know, you have to coordinate crowd control. You don't want people trampling each other and killing each other as they're trampled over. It all depends on how large the crowd is and how many people you have in your facility. So crowd control is extremely important. Each should understand both main evacuation routes and alternate routes in the building, out of the building. Because what you're doing, you're trying to get them out of the building where it's safe into the pre-assembled area. 16. Countermeasures and responses are situation specific. Rooms and offices that can be secured or locked from the inside where people can hide must be selected in advance, hearkening back to active shooter training from a couple of weeks ago. So those locks, those doors, the correct doors according to your safety protocols in your area, all of that is to be taken into consideration by your administration. And your helpers or the fire department when they come for their inspection, when they come to inspect your school, your church, your mosque, when they come to check to see what's going on at your school, at your church school. They will come because they're required to come. So the doors, the proper locks in the synagogue, all of that is important. That's what the fire department does. And that's according to what? Say it again, OSHA regulations in the United States. 17. Ensure elevators are not used during an emergency evacuation. I'm going to say it again. I'm down in the weeds. I'm going to say it again. Ensure elevators are never, ever not used during an emergency evacuation. You are using the stairs. That is why it's so important to have teams to help people with special needs who have to get out of that building. There should be someone pre-assigned to make sure they get out okay. 18. Procedures for shutdown of critical operations or other essential building equipment. Shutdown valves should be in the training plan for specific designated staff only. That's just a requirement. That's a part of the safety procedure. And your administrators will know exactly what it is that they are required to do and who is selected beforehand to do that job. 19, in the event of an emergency, local emergency management officials may order the school, business, worship house to evacuate the premises. In some cases, they may instruct the designated staff to shut down or shut off water, gas, or electricity. And that goes without saying why. You have to shut it down in certain situations. Your training team, your administration will know exactly who is to do that in that building. Your maintenance staff, your principal, whoever. That's part of their safety training when the fire department comes to inspect, according to OSHA regulations in the United States. Those are the regulations. Okay. 20. Make sure all vehicles used for transportation have cell phones, money, and mapping capability inside. That goes for your buses, cars, whatever you use in your particular business. Make sure you have that capability because you might need it. 21. Determine if people in need of transportation have relatives who can pick them up from the assembly areas. Make sure of that. Your students, people who are in your worship houses and your businesses, if they need to be picked up, someone should be available to do so, or calls should be made, because remember, you have all of their information, not only in the building, their personal information, you have it in an alternate place, be it a cell phone, be it a computer, in which you can notify next of kin of any situation if that student is in church school, or that student's in school, they need a ride home, and that particular relative haven't heard that there's an emergency wherever you may be, at work, school, or wherever, or on campus, college campus. 22. Be sure to notify local authorities and alternates receiving facilities if the evacuation is at another off-site location. That is emergency shelters, hospitals, or Red Cross hotel facilities. So be sure to notify local authorities and alternate receiving facilities if the evacuation is at another off-site location. Whatever is needed, be prepared, have all the information where you can make calls, send emails, email chain, whatever you may have to communicate with all who are involved. Now you see why I decided to do this in two parts, because this is a lot of information. I'm going to try my best, although I have additional information, not to be repetitive next week. And forgive me, because the last couple of classes have been very specific, down in the weeds. I'm making points because I always say to you, I want to make sure that I am giving you information that you can use. News, information that you can use. So until I see you again next Friday, remember, I post every Friday. I give them additional information, and we'll do so next Friday with part 2 of this specific evacuation protocol training. Get out of here quick during an emergency. And remember that story I told you about my daughter having to get down the stairs, and there was a tornado at one point, and they decided to leave out. And there are other incidents that may occur in which you have to leave the building. So stay safe, be aware, stay alert, know the laws in your community, know the laws. And when it's time to train and have a drill, please go, please cooperate and learn as much as you can, because that can save your life. I'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye.